Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator of the Bhakti Center in New York, Kostubha Das. Welcome to the show. This is episode 1424. 1424, it's Walk on Wednesday. Walk on Wednesday is when we bring in somebody from our community, and we pick the brain for a few minutes. But before we go there, Miss Mara's here with some announcements.
Good morning. Join Wisdom of the Sages at the beautiful Govardhan Eco Village for our Light on Wisdom training this January 12th through 24th. If you've ever wanted to have time away from the daily grind to learn yoga wisdom in depth and have all your questions answered in a supportive environment, this is an opportunity that can't be missed. Go to wisdomofthesages.com for registration and more information.
Boom, boom, boom. And we're doing last calls for chant camp. No, pilgrimage is that's really last calls. If you decide for pilgrimage, you better get on the phone with me today. Pilgrimage is happening October 17th and then Nepal November 4th. But the Columbus Day retreat here is filling up like crazy. And we're really excited. Yeah, and I will tell you, it's already started. The change of seasons, the upstate autumn leaves that everybody comes from all over the
changing
world
already, the leaves?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Welcome to our microclimate, Kostubha. You're like in the deep south there in New York City.
Am I?
Things are changing here.
Okay.
It's okay. Any other things you want to mention, Kostubha?
I'm good.
All right, let's bring on
It's Walk on Wednesday.
Her Walk on Wednesday is Sita Sundari,
Sita Sundari.
aka Nashville Bhakti Yoga. Good morning.
Good morning, Hare
Sita.
Krishna.
The first time I called you Sita. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you all?
Just had this beautiful initiation in Nashville that a lot of our community members came down to, and you and your husband got initiated, Dharma Setu. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And thank you to both of you for really like getting us on this path and keeping us on this path and being instructing gurus for us.
At your service. At your service. Yeah, we've known each other for years. We used to have a yoga studio up here. You know, it's always like I knew Cindy. I lived not that far from Cindy. We lived sort of Sita. We lived sort of close to each other. She lived in Saratoga Springs, and she was into Bhakti back then. And then somehow our paths kept crossing, and we started doing a lot of programs together. And I used to go to Nashville, and then Now we're doing these teacher trainings in India, and it's really exciting. You want to share a little bit about what we're doing at the Govardhan Eco Village, January 1st to January 24th?
Yeah, this year we're offering a 200-hour and a 300-hour. The last 2 years we've just had the 300. It's life-changing. My first time there, I was coming as a student, and then the next year, maybe 2 years after, because of COVID, I started working with you, and I really can't imagine not going there every year now. It's just now a staple of my spiritual life. So it's hard to explain this because I teach a lot of teacher trainings, and I've taught kind of, various places in the US and outside the US. And there's nothing like this place and nothing like this training because it's so immersive. And you get not only, the technical stuff, but you get the whole experience. So I try to explain this to people, but you just have to go and see for yourself. It's incredible.
Well, I know a lot of times in teacher trainings in America, you go in, you do an intensive weekend, then you go back home, or, you take a break, you go to Starbucks at lunch, discuss some yoga philosophy over a latte. It's different when you are all in and in for the good stuff. And, there's a lot of growth coming up because not only are you doing physical workout, pranayam, chanting or meditation or kirtan, but stuff comes up when you're imbibing a lot of this spiritual truth on a regular basis, and you have nowhere to have an outlet in one sense. So it sort of remains in this cooker, this like high pressure cooker. And I feel like that's why people can make so much advancement, because you're in this container you're away from everybody in one sense, and you're in this bubble, and you can go back to your room and stuff, but you got to process it by being in it. And I feel that takeaway where you're sort of eating and sleeping and breathing and living a yoga lifestyle is when you get such a taste for it, and then you bring it back home and then you give it to other people. That's the potency of it,
Yeah, and especially, in a community like this, one of the, not a complaint, but I guess just, people regret not having association. We get on here and we get to see each other, but, day to day, it's hard to practice this alone. And, for 3.5 weeks, you're with devotees, you're in the best association. So even when things come up, maybe that seem a little bit, challenging, you have all the right people supporting you, and you're not kind of left on an island by yourself. So in that way, it's really, really helpful to go through this experience together.
I think when you go to India like that and you kind of remove yourself from your world and dive into yoga, everyone goes through this little bit of self-searching at some point. And then there's always a few tears at some point, and then you come out the other side. It's usually a little like
there's
that,
a
right?
cracking involved.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty common. Yeah.
It's safe to say we've all cracked in India once or twice. And this year we actually are offering the lovely Lori Pag, which many of you know. She's going to teach a 200. Usually we just do an exclusive 300, but now we are really just fattening up the whole program by adding a whole second 200 course for those who are new to yoga and feel like, well, I'm not qualified for a 300. Guess what? We've got one of the most popular, probably the most popular yoga teacher in Rhode Island coming, Lori Pag, who's got years. She's got one of those, if she was a Girl Scout, she would have a sash of yoga merit badges up and down that thing. But
if you were a caterer, she'd be #1 in the county.
If she was a caterer, she'd be #1, And if she, I can keep going with these analogies if you want. She was a race car driver, she'd be Mario Andretti. But anyway, we're really happy to have her on board too. So between Cindy, myself, and Bobby Kostuba, it's like we have such a one Janeshwar. Yeah, we have just like a wonderful program. You learn kirtan. No matter what you do, you're adding kirtan. You're adding bhakti to it. How to add kirtan to your yoga class. How to work a dharma talk in your yoga class. How to basics of Ayurveda, yoga philosophy that's practical and relevant. So if you ever think about, I wouldn't mind changing my life, reach out. And what's the best way to reach us?
They can, go ahead, Martha.
supersoultrainings@gmail.com.
Or they go to my website, Raghunath, R-A-G-H-U. R-A-G-H-U. I have an H in my name. RAGHUNATH.yoga. And you can and check it out. And if you have questions, just email. Mara does the responses. Or
I forward them on to Cindy and Bobby. But
just indicate if you're interested in the 200 or the 300. Helps us.
Yeah, but it is extremely limited and space, because it gets really crowded there towards the end of the month, and there's limited beds, and other groups come through the GEV. We are hosted at the GEV by His Holiness Radhanath Swami, which is quite wonderful. So and all of the monks there, and they take such good care. And me and Kostuba have been going there literally since 2000, 9 or something. I can't remember.
Even before that, even before it really opened up.
When nothing was built. And it was just sort of like Radhanath Swami going, well, we're going to have a forest there, and we're going to have a temple there. And we're like, because you were like, you're going to have a forest there on that dirt pile? Really? Where are you going to get the trees from? It is like quite a testament to one man's focus and devotion, and everybody who believes in a mission. But they've done it, and now it's like better than ever. It's like we're in a little paradise in crazy India.
Every year it gets more lush and
gorgeous and beautiful. And you know what it gets more? And it gets more finished. Meaning, in the old days, it was like nice, but there was still like a truck loading like 10,000 bricks somewhere. Now it's just like peaceful and serene and tropical, and a occasional beautiful bird flies by. It's
And
wonderful.
incredible ecological projects going on, including the farming and the care for the animals and so many other
I mean,
things.
we do our yoga practice every morning above the cows. Isn't that
Beautiful
incredible?
cows, gear cows.
And then sometimes we go down and they have kirtan for the cows, like
Yeah.
early in the morning. It's a special moment.
And they have the real long ears, these cows.
Yeah. So great. And Cindy's an incredible teacher. Lori Pack's an incredible teacher, and Bobby's an incredible teacher. And it is just so much fun. It's a great way to spend January. And if you're thinking about maybe, sometimes you think, what do I want to do with my life? Maybe teaching yoga is for you, and we can help. Anything else you want to add, Miss Sita?
Yeah, just if you're not really interested in teaching yoga, because there's definitely people that want to go deeper in both their practice and their spiritual practice and their
Studies.
physical practice, you don't have to plan to teach. We've had plenty of people come through the program and they do it for, Linda's one of them, really did it for her own deepening, and it was great to have her in the program. It didn't hinder us or her in any way. So if you're having any inclination towards any aspect of this, just reach out to us and we can kind of talk you through it.
Is Linda unmiked there? Does she want to share anything? Hi, Linda. You got anything you want to say? Okay, what? Okay, you took it, but you weren't planning on being. Oh, you were at a whole corporate life. You didn't want to be a yoga teacher. Massive. Hi, Linda. Oh,
She's muted.
there you go. How are you, Linda?
Good morning. Hare Krishna. Yes, I had just retired from my corporate life. I thought I was retiring, but anyway, and I just wanted to be in India for the month, and you have the best yoga teachers, and I knew I could learn a lot. So I decided to do the 300-hour, and it was amazing. Didn't regret it for a second. Learned a lot, even deepened my yoga practice, but deepened my bhakti most of all. So
Destroyed your professional career.
yes, I started a new career that month as well. Little did I know. But it's fantastic. And, I'm biased, but admittedly, but Wisdom of the Sages has the most comprehensive offering in January of all of the pilgrimages out there. So super happy I went, but you still get association with all the other people too, but a really fantastic opportunity to learn.
Thank you, Linda, for that endorsement. This has been a paid service announcement.
I know.
Oh, Braj
I am the
Sundari
most
Raha,
biased
it's
person
magical.
to ask, but it is a fantastic opportunity for the most amazing association, and Sita Sundari and Dharma Setu are doing great work in Nashville too. I'm in Tennessee right now, doing some parental seva, but and am grateful to be able to utilize them. So we have the best people as part of our community, and it's just great to see it grow in the way that it is as well.
Yeah, briefly share, Sita Sundari, what's going on in Nashville. If you're in the area, please listen. Let your ears perk up. What are you guys doing?
We have a Bhakti center. It's a big room, so it's not so much like the Bhakti Center in New York, but it's really in the heart of Nashville, and we're trying our very best to bring Bhakti here. We call in great teachers like yourself every once in a while to kind of, like this weekend, the momentum. It was just really, it was so powerful for the studio and for our students. And I have class in about 7 minutes every morning. We do philosophy at 6:30. We read the Srimad Bhagavatam on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the Bhagavad Gita on Thursday, Friday. We do monthly kirtan, weekly kirtan, lots of sound baths, things that are, sort of similar to at least the things we're trying to promote. And we're open to any ideas and suggestions. If people are coming through and they want to offer a program, we'd love to share the space with you. I heard you say someone from Tennessee on here I didn't recognize, so I'm hoping she'll reach out if she's close.
Sound bath, Kastuba. Sound bath, cold plunge. Choose your bath, Kastuba.
Or
Sound
both.
bath sounds
How do you think
easier.
Kastuba would do with that cold plunge that you guys do?
I
I
would
gotta
love
go plunge.
to.
You guys just never get out of there. Just arms crack off.
What if you do a sound bath and the cold plunge at the same time?
Oh, that would be good. That would be good. Chanting japa, sound bath, and cold plunge. Then a sauna. All right, enough of this. I'll just keep teasing it out. Thank you, Sita Sundari. You're like, she's 2 feet in the cold plunge, her and Dharma say too. It's very impressive. We love it. You guys are inspiring parts of our community. I was wondering why you weren't on Zoom lately. I understand now.
Yeah.
You've got Bhagavad Gita class going on all the time, and Bhagavatam class. Keep it going. We're very
both.
inspired by you and proud of you.
Great soul.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Oh yeah, Lori Pag, Bobby Marchand, and Cindy Lunsford. What a team!
Yeah.
Kostuba, cold plunging, love it.
Okay.
Rayanam namaskutyanam chaivanarottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and the Sri Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati tamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees. All that is troublesome to the heart become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 1, Text 17. Recap, Mr. Kostuba. Tell us where we're at. Tell us what's going on here.
Well, rather than recapping, I think we may be at a place. Well, you can decide, Raghunath. But yeah, okay, let's step back for a second. What?
You just go. You just be you.
Okay. Well, this 8th canto, there are different topics to the different cantos and different topics to the Bhagavatam. And the topic for the 8th canto is Manvantara, which means that there are these different ages. And in those different ages, there are different Manus, right? The Manvantara means the era of a particular Manu or a particular universal leader, in a sense. And it's important. The idea is that in those Manvantaras, there's a Manu who's in charge. And then there are different Devas, like there's a Lord Indra. There's a whole staff. There's an Indra and there's a Surya and there's a different beings take those posts in the universe.
I like that. Staff. There's a whole staff they have.
There's a whole staff.
It is. You need someone to direct. Like you start any business, you're going to need a CFO. You're going to need.
Yeah. And like any corporation, it's a challenge to keep it on the mission, to keep it moving forward, to keep it successful, to keep it serving properly.
Makes sense. It makes actually perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. But the reason for it is they all see themselves. Manu, if we go back to the earlier cantos in Bhagavatam, since we're zooming out a little here, you have Lord Vishnu, who's lying on the water in the universe, this universal water, and he gives birth from a lotus to Brahma.
Yeah.
And Brahma meditates deeply and receives inner messages, from Lord Vishnu, how to create.
Yeah.
And he creates all these different sons he has, including Svayambhuva Manu, the first Manu, as well as all the great sages. And so there's Manu and his staff, they're like the managers. And those are the Devas like Indra and Surya and Vayu and et cetera, et cetera. The god of the wind, the god of the sun, the god of the rain, the god of, and then there's also the sages. And they also take the great sages like Narada and Marichi and so on. You have all these sages that are also born from Brahma. And they're together with the management and the spiritual insight. They're meant to keep us moving forward, to provide for all living beings, to maintain and to illuminate sad-dharma, like what is the highest truth about life and where does it all go and how can we live in such a way where we're always moving forward to that sad-dharma. Sad-dharma means the eternal dharma. We have temporary dharmas that we adopt, temporary roles that we play, temporary responsibilities that we have. It may be being a mother or a father or being a teacher or a worker, whatever role that you have in society. Those are temporary dharmas, but their value is when they're connected to when they're centered around and helping us go deeper into the sad-dharma. And sad-dharma means when the self gives oneself entirely in love to the center of all existence, to Sri Krishna, to God. And so in this canto, we're going to see how one surrenders to God and how that falls into the different manvantars, you know. We're going to hear 3 stories, right? And 3 stories of surrender to God. The story, you know, the narration of Gajendra's surrender, Gajendra the elephant.
Oh, it's a good one.
Who's got a crocodile on his leg and he's suffering like crazy. And then from the prayers of his past life arise in him, and he expresses what it really means to give oneself entirely to God through these prayers, so that we can understand that sad-dharma. It comes out of the mouth of the elephant, right? It's amazing.
Now, if you're new to the show and you're hearing about an elephant with a crocodile on its leg, we'll explain this in the future. Just hold tight here.
We're going to get there maybe tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's the narration of the Devas, the staff, right? Lord Vishnu's staff in the material world. And their churning of the ocean of milk. They have to cooperate with their enemies, the asuras. Those that
sometimes in the workplace, you got to deal with some real crazies.
Sometimes in the workplace.
I try to keep this very relevant and practical.
Okay.
In the workplace, you get some real demons.
Okay.
But you got to work with them.
But in order, they have to surrender so much that they even have to work with their enemies as if they're their partners. And there's so much in that narration about what it means to surrender oneself unto God. And then the third narration is the narration of Bali Maharaja, which is a really fascinating one. He's born in the family of Asuras.
What a winning canto, huh?
It's a great
3
lineup.
great stories.
that taste great together. And and so that's what we're going to hear now. We heard about a little narration about Swayambhuva Manu in this chapter 1. And how he's standing on one leg and meditating on how Lord Vishnu is behind everything. And one needs to give themselves to that divine eternal being who has a form and so on. The rest of the chapter kind of just says, okay, there's going to be this Manu, the second Manu comes along. There's a different incarnation in that age. There's a different Indra. There's a different staff. And it tells you a bit about that staff. And then you hear about the second, the third, the fourth Manus. Each has an incarnation in that manvantar, in that era, a different avatar, and each has a different staff of Indra, etc. So it kind of goes through all these names. I'm not sure if we need to go through that, or if I could maybe I just summarize it for you. Should I do that, Raghunath? Are you there? Raghunath's freezing up on me. Should I summarize? You are all freezing out, lagging on us. All right, I'm just gonna summarize this for everyone, and then we can move on to the next chapter. But what we have is you there, Raghu? You back? Raghu, speak to me.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. So I'll summarize it.
Hello.
I'll summarize it.
Yeah, please.
So we hear in text 17, Swayambhuva Manu is still in his trance, and he's chanting the prayers of the Upanishads, and he gets attacked by the Rakshasas and Asuras. That anti-staff, is like goes after him. Those universal beings that are trying to tear down the sad-dharma order and turn it upside down. Don't give yourself to Vishnu. Turn away from Vishnu. That's their message. They're attacking Swayambhuva Manu. And then Lord Vishnu, an avatar Vishnu named Yagnapati. It says Lord Vishnu, who sits in everyone's heart, appearing as Yagnapati, accompanied by his sons named the Yamas, and by all the other Devas, the rest of the staff, they fight against the demons and the Rakshasas. And then Lord Vishnu himself takes the post of Indra. Interesting, right? He serves on the staff underneath Manu. And then it says this later, the son of Agni, the fire god, named Svarochisa, becomes the second Manu. And it names who becomes Indra then. It lists all these names of staff members. And then it says the third Manu, Uttama, was the son of King Priyavrata. Okay, so then there's a third Manu, and again, all the staff members are mentioned. It says the brother of the third Manu, named Uttama, was celebrated by the name Tamasa. He became the fourth Manu. Okay. And then it mentions this in text 30. It says, in this Manvantar, in this era, Lord Vishnu took birth from the womb of Harini, the wife of Harimedha, and he was known as Hari.
Okay, so there's the mother's Harini.
His name is Harimedha.
Harimedha, and the child's name is
Hari.
Hari. Now that's confusing.
Not so much. We got
Well, in
Junior.
public
It's called-
public events, it's
call him
very
Junior
confusing.
if you want.
Hari Junior. Okay.
Yeah. And so then Hari saved, he kind of mentions offhand, Hari saved the devotee Gajendra, the elephant, the king of the elephants, from the mouth of the crocodile. Now, as soon as King Parikshit hears that, I've heard about that elephant before, King Parikshit says, my lord Badarayani, that's the son of Badarayana, speaking to Sukadeva Goswami, we wish to hear from you in detail. Don't just blow over this. I want to hear in detail how the king of the elephants, when attacked by a crocodile, was delivered by Hari, Lord Vishnu, in this form. And then he mentions, any literature or narration in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka, is described. Uttama Shloka means?
Topmost glorification in the top more.
Glorified by these topmost verses, right?
Yeah.
Is any literature or narration in which the Supreme Lord is described and glorified is certainly great and pure and glorious and auspicious and all good. It's that he goes into such detail about this is really important. It has something to do with what we were talking about on Monday, where there are these texts where God is glorified in detail so we can understand there's someone beyond us, someone that we are ontologically dependent on, someone where all of our qualities and abilities and powers come from. And it is in our best interest to understand that and to connect. And so, therefore, it's so important to hear these descriptions. And then Sutta Goswami, the speaker, replies to him, O Brahmanas, when Parikshit Maharaj, this is Sutta Goswami speaking, when Parikshit Maharaj was awaiting impending death, right, he's sitting there waiting to get bit by the snake bird, and he's hearing the narrations of Bhagavatam, thus requesting Sukadeva Goswami to speak. Sukadeva Goswami, encouraged by the king's words, you want to hear about Gajendra? There's nothing more that I want to talk about, right?
Listen, Maharaj Parikshit, well, he was listening to the Bhagavatam, sitting at the feet of the naked 16-year-old sage.
Yeah.
And he knew he was going to die in 7 days. Did he?
Now it's even less.
Now, did he know how he was?
Oh yeah, he's going to be bitten by the snake bird. He said, "Let the snake bird bite me."
Imagine listening to a Bhagavatam class, and any minute, some snake bird is about to come into the temple room and just take.
And everybody else sitting around like they know it's coming.
It's coming. There's going to be a big bird in here soon.
But he's absorbed in hearing Bhagavatam, and Sukadeva Goswami is encouraged by the king's words. He offers respects to the king, right? He's not like, I'm the big shot here. The fact that you asked me that moves me so much. And he spoke with pleasure in the assembly of sages who desired to hear him. So everybody wants to hear this narration of Gajendra now. Everybody's all keyed up for this. Now, this is something I wanted, getting back to this idea, like, what is this canto all about? It's about understanding how to surrender, right? It's about understanding what is the nature of surrender, because it's saying that we kind of understand that the goal of all of yoga is when the self finally gets it, that there is a source of everything, including myself, that is not only all powerful and all good and all knowing, but it's just as sweet as can be. as that has so much love, and that for me to miss out on that is the cause of my suffering and cycles again and again and again. And we just had to come to that point that with tears in our eyes, we say, what have I been doing?
Mm.
Let me just reconnect and find that shelter.
Now there's two types of surrender going on. There's either a bitter surrender where material nature by design takes away everything we value.
Right.
And if you feel like, well, I've lost a lot of stuff, you're not in that alone. You're not in this alone. It's a world of the temporary that everything gets taken away, everything. And some of us are thinking, no, I can hold on to this. No, you can't. Everything gets eventually stripped away, and we fight with it. I fight with aging. I fight with loss. I fight with heartache. I fight with kids growing up, and I miss them as little babies. Everything just is the current of time is flowing super rapid. Or there is hearing these stories and creating a sweet surrender, a sweet trusting, a sweet understanding that it is not like this flash flood that you're getting swept down in its terror. It's actually like it's a beautiful current taking you downstream, and to just like enjoy the ride of it. And you do that by applying knowledge, not just hearing. We're not just hearing interesting, fascinating stories. We're hearing so we apply, and so that we let go of these things that have nothing to do with our real identity anyway.
Thank you.
Sweet surrender.
Sweet surrender. And I wanted to share something I came across this morning. Really interesting. But a couple days ago, when you were out in Buffalo, Raghunath and I did the show by myself, we talked about Advaita Vedanta and Bhakti Vedanta and the difference between the two. One is a path where the idea is that it's not to surrender unto some divine being other than oneself. The idea is that there is nothing other than oneself on the highest level of truth. And maybe some worship, a temple worship or this or that can be helpful to get you to that, but you have to let go of all of that and come to the stage where there is only one, there's not two, and it's not about love, it's about there's some bliss of oneness that one feels. And then there's the Bhakti Vedanta, which is taught in Bhagavatam, which is the idea that ontologically there is a supreme, beautiful, loving being that we can maintain our own identity from, and that we love, that we can have loving exchanges with in eternity. Those are two very different ideas and two very different interpretations of the Vedic texts. And we discussed how it's possible to draw both of these ideas out of the Vedic text, but that Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedic text, answered the debate by saying that the stage of oneness is a step from materialism up to that step, and then finally you get to divine love. That's the full evolution of the being, and he clarifies that in Srimad Bhagavatam. That was the theme. So on YouTube, there's been like comments on that, and mostly nice comments and one or two nasty comments.
That was me.
I just go click and that's gone. And but one person shared, and I took this down too, but they shared a video. Okay.
Yeah.
And the video was called "The Role of Devotion and Prayer in the Non-Dual Path." Okay, so the non-dual path means it makes us, well, this is what the question was. Someone asked a question of the speaker. I'm forgetting his full name, Rupert something. The question was, what, if any, is the role of devotion in the non-dual path? Now, if we take that in the context of Vedanta that we're speaking, it's saying, what is the role of bhakti in the Advaitin path, right? And then they went on, they said, in moments of challenge or the witness of pain, there has been the use of prayer to be of the greatest alignment with truth and love. In that context, can you explain to me what is the role of devotion on the non-dual path? Now, what the speaker does, well, let's start. He opens up this way. He says the role of devotion is absolutely central to the non-dual understanding. This path that we are on is as much a path of devotion as it is a path of knowledge. Oh, so, wow, it's so inclusive. It's so beautiful. He's not saying this is right and this is wrong or anything like that. He's embracing it all. He's saying bhakti is just as much as part of the non-dual path. Now, of course, it doesn't really make sense, because what he's going to do is he's going to totally redefine what the word devotion means. And that's why we need Manus, and that's why we need the staff, and that's why we need the Bhagavatam, and that's why we need to hear these stories of Gajendra and the Devas and Bali to understand what actually devotion is. And that's what's established really clearly in the Bhagavatam, because here's how he redefines the word devotion. So he says the role of devotion is absolutely central to the path of non-dual understanding. It's as much a path of devotion as it is a path of knowledge. But the question is, what are we devoted to? Here, referring to the non-dual path, we are devoted to truth. We are devoted to what is real. Now, when he says that, that means he's saying Krishna is unreal, Vishnu is unreal, any form is unreal. We're not devoted to them, right? So he says, we're devoted to truth. We're devoted to what is real. So that is why we put so much emphasis on making this exploration into what is true or real in our experience, because only that is worthy of our devotion. So Krishna is not worthy of your devotion. Vishnu is not worthy of your devotion. That's what he's saying. He's expressing it in language that makes it sound like it's inclusive, but it's actually very exclusive. He's saying, no, that bhakti path is not real. It's not true. Devote yourself not to that. It's not worthy of your devotion. So he says, so we don't here devote ourselves to a God which is considered to be outside of ourselves. Okay.
They really hate God, don't they?
Well, I mean,
They hate this concept of sweet baby Krishna.
It's actually, Raghunath, what you said sounds extreme, but actually that's what it's an aversion. I don't like the idea of some being beyond me that's ontologically more powerful than me. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
I think that's what it is. It's like it can be a deep, steeped arrogance.
You know, we say there are two different types of impersonalism. One is called Brahmavad, and one is called Mayavad. Now, Brahmavad is saying, I'm interested and attracted to the non-personal energy of God, and I want to experience that. And for that, we say, knock yourself out. Like, go for it. That is part of God. And if that's the part of God that you're feeling drawn towards, that's all right. We're not going to object. We do believe there's much more than that. But here what he's saying is Krishna is unreal. You should stop being devoted to Krishna. You should stop that devotion to God because it's not truth. And that's called Mayavada. It's saying that literally it's what he's saying is it's not real, it's Maya. Krishna is Maya. His form is Maya. The spiritual realm is Maya. None of this is real. Stop devoting yourself to it. Turn away from it. So now he gives this logic. He says the very heart of reality of yourself is not something personal. Your thoughts, feelings, sensations, perceptions, etc., these are all personal to you. He's saying these aren't real, you know. But the being that shines at the very depths of yourself, which shines as your knowledge of being myself, or the feeling of being, now he has feelings apparently, but the feeling of being, you can say the experience of being, or the knowledge that I am, that is pure being, which before was colored or qualified by experience. This has no limits to it. So he's saying when we have experiences, when we have feelings, when we have sensations, perceptions, connections to another being, none of that's all limited, and therefore it can't be real. He says that is the being that we all share, this oneness. It is the being that we share with all people, all animals, and all things. That is God's presence in your heart. That God's presence in your heart, the way it's spoken about in the Bhagavad Gita, the way that it's spoken about in the Upanishads, the way that it's spoken about it's not saying that you are that God in your heart. It's saying that God is situated in your heart alongside you like two birds in a tree, not one bird, right?
It
Then he
sounds
says,
like the narrative of a person who's been hurt. He's been
There's
hurt in
emotion
life,
behind it. There's emotion behind it.
and
Yeah.
they don't like the idea of giving themselves to something other than themselves. There's an authority.
He's
Fear
going to
of
make that real
authority.
clear. He's going to make
He's
that
a
real clear. He says you cannot approach God as a separate self. Well, he's denying everything that's said in the Bhagavatam. He's denying Bhagavad Gita when he says that. So we cannot approach this being called God, because to do so would be to imply that we are separate from God. And if we exist as an entity that is separate from God's being, then God must again be finite.
Who wrote this?
It's not a word, it's a video.
Who spoke it? Just
His name is Rupert. I forget the last name. But if you want to find the video, it's called The Role of Devotion and Prayer in the Non-Dual Path.
I don't want to find it.
Okay. So we're almost done with this, but just a second here.
Okay.
He says the way to know God, the way to know the way to know God, the way that you are to devote yourself to God is to make this deep investigation into yourself. And in this investigation, everything that is not essential to you will fall away. So namely, that means your thoughts, your sensations, your perceptions, any divine being that has its own consciousness outside of yourself, all that's going to drop away. And your very own self will be revealed as that which is referred to as God. In other words, the highest form of devotion to God, the highest form of prayer to God, is simply to be knowingly yourself. And that is the ultimate devotion, simply to be knowing yourself. So Shankar never spoke of devotion in these terms. You know, and all the great Vaishnavacharyas never spoke of devotion in these terms. He took the term devotion and he gave it some anemic meaning. Like devotion, everyone accepts that bhakti means devotion unto another being, a love for another being. And he's more or less used it just to mean dedicated to your path or something like that, right? Be devoted to going in and understanding yourself, and there is no one beside yourself. So this is when he says that this is central to the path, you know, oh yes, devotion, bhakti is central. He just denied everything about bhakti. He just threw bhakti out the window.
Sure.
You know? So I would appreciate more if he expressed that non-dual path. Why not just come out forward and say, well, you use the word devotion, which the Sanskrit word for that is bhakti. And we believe on our non-dual path that bhakti can play a role in your evolution, but it stops at a certain point and you have to leave it behind. That would have been how Shankar would have answered the question. And that wouldn't have confused his audience who are unclear about what all these terms means, you know. Then go ahead and say it, and then don't pose as you're the most inclusive people in the world. Say, we believe bhakti plays a certain role, but at a certain point, it's no good anymore. And the bhaktas, the people that believe in devotion, they have a different idea. Now we're being honest, and we can actually really have a real conversation, you know. So getting back to my point, that is why Vyasadeva gave us Bhagavatam, to give us stories about Gajendra, to give us stories about Bali, to give us Prahlad, to give us all of the great, you know, Dhruva, and so, you know, throughout, and of course, ultimately the residents of Vrindavan and the gopis. This is what devotion is, as is presented in Vyasadeva's works. Don't change the meaning of it. If you don't like this, then we can talk about it. But don't take our name, take all of the life out of it, and say that you're being inclusive by including it in your path. You eliminated it from your path.
You just took the name.
You just took the name, yeah. Oh, okay. So now let us hear about Gajendra, right? Now we can hear about what surrender actually is, what it really looks like. Then judge it for itself if you think that this makes sense, if this is the conclusion of the Vedic literatures. You know, but we should see what real devotion is. We should see what real bhakti is. We're going to hear it right from the mouth of the elephant Gajendra. So now we start the next chapter.
Woo. Okay, so that was the entire chapter.
Yeah. I summarized the end of the other chapter.
So let's just jump in and see if we can get a couple texts done.
We can get a lot. There's this beautiful description here.
Sukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, there is a very large mountain called Trikuta. It is 10,000 yojanas high, being
That's
surrounded
eight
by
miles is a yojana, so it's very high.
8 miles. So that's 80,000 miles.
It's a big one. It's in the spirit. This is up in the heavenly
Yeah,
realms.
this isn't in the Himalayas. This isn't in
Yeah.
the Adirondacks.
Okay.
Being surrounded by the ocean of milk, it is very beautifully situated. The length and breadth of the mountain are of the same measurement. Its 3 principal peaks, which are made of iron, silver, and gold, beautify all directions in the sky. So try to imagine yourself, you're in some celestial, planet, and you're seeing this beautiful mountain. The mountain also has other peaks, which are full of jewels and minerals, and are decorated with nice trees, creepers, and shrubs. The sounds of the waterfalls on the mountain create a pleasing vibration. In this way, the mountain stands, increasing the beauty of all directions.
It's going to go on with this description of just how beautiful and pleasant it is there.
The ground at the foot of the mountain is always washed by waves of milk that produce emeralds all around in the 8 directions. The inhabitants of the higher planets, right, the Siddhas, the Charnas, the Gandharvas, the Vidyadharas, the serpents, the Kinnaras, and the
Bird people.
Apsaras,
Bird people right there, those canars.
go to that mountain to sport. Thus, all the caves of the mountain are full of these denizens of heavenly planets. Sounds great. Because of the resounding vibrations, it sounds like Lake George. Because of the resounding vibrations of the denizens of heaven singing in the caves, the lions there, being very proud of their strength, roar with unbearable envy, thinking that another lion is roaring in that way. The valley beneath Trikuta Mountain are beautifully decorated by many varieties of jungle animals, and in the trees, which are maintained in gardens by the demigods, varieties of birds chirp with sweet voices. Trikuta Mountain has many lakes and rivers, with beaches covered by small gems resembling grains of sand. The water is as clear as crystal, and when the demigods or the demigod damsels bathe in it, the demigod damsels bathe in it. Their bodies lend fragrance to the water and the breeze, thus enriching the atmosphere. So we're imagining a heaven. It's interesting. Where else do you hear descriptions of heavens?
Well, it is interesting. Now, if we zoom out again, what we're hearing in the Bhakti context is that this world isn't exactly unreal, but it's a reflection. And so what it's a reflection of is the spiritual realm. And this is kind of what the spiritual realm feels like, right? And then you're going to have Gajendra, who's like the king of the elephants, living in this virtual spiritual world. And it's like he's got it all, right? He's got it. It seems like he's in a perfect setting, and he's admired and loved, and it's like saying it's a picture of success in the material world.
Some of us have great success on this planet, but imagine that great success in a higher planet. There's so many levels of higher enjoyment than what we're experiencing here.
There's so many beautiful places to see in this planet, but then we look around and sometimes we're just looking at the most ugly, like we just kind of ruined it,
Oh, sure.
But it's just on this super high level here. Just like if you visit the nicest mountain or forest or lake or something like that, and you're like, oh, this is so beautiful. Or maybe you go to island or something like that.
Yeah.
Here on these higher planets, it's just so even though you can see, like it was saying that the bodies of these damsels lends fragrance to the water and the breeze. It's just like even their own bodies are just so pleasing,
I think we gotta call it a show today.
All right.
Miss Mara,
Yeah,
did you take anything away for our takeaways?
I do. I got some good stuff.
Okay.
Real dharma is to give yourself entirely to God.
That's right. Sad-dharma.
Sometimes you got to work with some demons.
You got to work with them on the staff.
Yeah,
there may be demons on your staff, Raghunath.
There may be demons. Right in front of your face.
It's in our best interest to understand and connect with the divine.
It really is.
Surrender with love or by force.
Oh, well, you got to
Ouch.
surrender one way, right? That by force surrender is like death or time or something like that.
Yeah, if we don't bend, we break. How about that?
Ooh, that's good. too.
Oh, okay.
The current of time washes everything away.
In the material realm.
Yeah, like some trees, they snap in the winter,
Mm,
but the birch bends.
the willows bend.
The willows bend, Kostuba.
Thank you.
The willows bend.
Krishna is worthy of our devotion.
Most certainly.
Bhagavatam shows us real devotion and surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Real devotion.
And don't throw Bhakti out the window.
Don't throw it out the window.
What was that from? Don't throw Bhakti out the window.
Because
Kostuba
Rupert
said it.
threw it out the window.
Yeah.
That's right. He threw it out the window.
Yesterday I said that
Silly.
this is how this show works. I listen to you, but you don't listen to me. That's how this thing works.
Oh, it gets so philosophical, Kostuba. You're deep, you're thoughtful, you can come with great analogies. Just my brain goes right to, I want to hear the story about the elephant. There's where my brain goes.
We're gonna hear the
about elephants and alligators.
Why don't you get a Gajendra
That's the-
tattoo, Raghunath? That would be a
You know, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Maya's?
Maya got a great one.
Maya
for
got a
Stodgy.
great one.
What'd she get?
That's right. My daughter gave Maya a tattoo of Gajendra offering a lotus
Get
flower.
out.
Simple but nice.
It's really
I think you should have a back piece. Big one.
All right. Okay. How about that?
Do it.
Mary's like,
Mary's like, no.
oh, everybody.